Welcome to Stuck in My Mind podcast, the show where we dive into the mind of a regular guy on his road to self-discovery. You'll hear everyday people just like you share the latest topics, personal stories, and things they've learned along the way. And now, please welcome your host, Wise.
And welcome to another live episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, W-I-Z-E. I have a very special guest. She was actually supposed to be my guest on Monday, and I was not feeling well. But there's a great story behind it as well. But I'll share that for another day. Welcome to the show, Barbie Engel.
Hi, Wise. I'm so happy to be here and excited to talk to you and your listeners. And hopefully I get to share some wisdoms that help them with their lives.
Thank you for coming by. And once again, I want to apologize for Monday.
No need. I understand.
All right, Barbie. Okay, so you're a best-selling author.
Mm-hmm. I am.
You're a reality personality.
Yes.
But you have an amazing story. You suffer from some rare diseases. Can you tell us something about that?
Sure. So the one that affects me the most is called reflex sympathetic dystrophy. Reflex is anything in your body that's automatic, goes haywire. So you're swallowing, how your stomach works, how your heart works, the ability to cry, all that goes haywire. Sympathetic is burning pain. And it's throughout my entire body. Some people get it regionally and it's only affecting one part of their body. For me, my whole body feels like it's on fire. And then that's the sympathetic nervous system. And then dystrophy is loss of muscle and bone. So I spent 7 years in a wheelchair and bedbound. And I know how precious taking life by each moment and doing the best you can do in that moment is why it's so important, because you never know when you can't dance today.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you never know when something just like simple as walking is taken away from you or whatever it is. And these are the trials and these are the things you go through in life. But 7 years in a wheelchair.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
And during that time I saw in the first 3 years, I saw 43 doctors, and it took that long because it's a rare disease and not a lot of even medical providers haven't even heard of it. And it was very difficult to get diagnosed and get the right treatments. And I was doing all the wrong things, which was making me worse and worse and worse. But even after 3 years and getting a correct diagnosis, it still took another 4 years to get the right treatment that got me walking again.
So you are walking again now.
I am. I do have a wheelchair and a scooter to get around if I come out of remission in between infusions, but I undergo infusion therapy about every 3 to 4 months. And that is what keeps me walking and keeps me active or moving.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing also is, you're the reigning Miss Southwest Petite USA.
Yes, I am.
Even with everything you've gone through, that's amazing. That's something you can that just goes to show you people out there that no matter what you're going through, you can accomplish things. That is great. Like, what made you compete for that?
Well, 20 years ago, 2002, September 2002, so just over 20 years ago, I was going to do the Mrs. Washington State pageant, and that's when I got sick. And it was on my bucket list, and I kind of changed my bucket list over the years because I had so many obstacles I was facing and challenges, and I changed my goal to being a judge for a beauty pageant instead of being a contestant. And this year in January, I got COVID. My father-in-law passed away at the end of November of 2021 from COVID. And I just said, I need to start working on my bucket list, and I need to start getting some things checked off, because you never know when life's going to be over. So push a little bit harder. And I dug down deep and I was like, well, I don't really know how to just become a judge of a beauty pageant, but I know how to sign up for one. And my goal wasn't to win. My goal was just see how I would do. And which 20 years ago, my goal was win. Now I'm turning 50 this year, next month. And my goal was just see how well I can do. And that's good enough. And so I won Mrs. Arizona, and then I went to regionals and I won Mrs. Southwest, and then I went to nationals and I placed in the top at nationals, but I did not win the national title. But at nationals, I was awarded the Community Impact Award for the charity hours and the volunteer work that I do out of all the contestants and all of the divisions. And when you do a beauty pageant, it's based on looks, but there's also a score for interview and what you're doing in your community, and you choose a platform. And so each of us are doing community service hours and out in the community helping as we can. And each of us has a different talent and things we're interested in. For me, it was individualizing healthcare and getting people proper and timely access to care. And I ended up winning the Impact Award out of all the divisions, from teen all the way to Miss Elite or Elite Miss division, which is the senior division. And to me, like, that was the crowning moment. I cried as if I won the national title. I was so happy. But, it was just, let's see what I can do. And I'm enjoying my time as the reigning queen right now.
So you're very involved. You're a big health advocate. What got you involved in all that? I can imagine with everything that you've been through.
Exactly. Everything I went through, especially in the first 3 years of not having the right diagnosis, of not being heard. And my stepsister actually passed away in 2006 from the exact same rare disease that I have. And I have another family member that has the rare disease that was diagnosed after me. And it's something that the doctors should have seen, should have known, should have understood. And even if they couldn't figure out what the rare disease was, they should have been listening to me as a patient and asking more questions and trying to dig in to help me live a better life, because I was just losing one thing after the next. I went from the top of the world owning my own cheer and dance training company. I was the head coach at Washington State University for cheerleading and dance. And I helped the Seattle Seahawks set up their mascot program. And I went from that to literally food stamps, not knowing where I was going to live, sleeping on a neighbor's couch, and having to rebuild my entire life. If I struggled, and I know how to get through the system, I knew other people would be struggling, and my family knew other people would be struggling. So we wanted to make a difference. And that's how I became a health advocate and started speaking up for myself, but also started speaking up for other people, especially people that are low income, people of color, people that get excluded. I do recognize I'm a white woman, or I look white. I'm actually from Bangkok, Thailand, but if someone looks at me, they're going to judge me as a white person. And so technically I get better care than other people who are not a white woman. And if I'm getting this crappy of care, what are they going through? So I wanted to speak up and make a difference and share, so that other people needing care in a timely fashion could have some options, tools, resources, so that they can get the care they need also.
So what are a few tools people can use to get better access to proper and timely healthcare?
Well, first is get organized, not only with your medical records and knowing what your records say, but also your medical billing. And with the billing side, you can save tens of thousands of dollars, especially if you, or hundreds of thousands of dollars if you have a rare disease, just by staying on top of those bills and checking them for any mistakes. If you have insurance, 8 out of 10 medical bills has a mistake. And when they send that information over to the insurance company, if your date of birth is wrong, if your name is spelled incorrectly, like a letter is jumbled in your name or something from how fast the person typed it in, something that simple will cause them to process what you owe and what they negotiate at a different amount. So just being able to check your bills and seeing those errors and not paying your bill until your insurance company negotiates for you. A lot of people get a bill and they try to pay it right away, and it's a struggle. Medical bills can be very expensive. So waiting for your insurance company to negotiate the bill and paying what your patient responsibility is. And if you can't pay it all at once, sending $5 or $10 a month to pay towards it, and then negotiate. Whether you have insurance or not, you can negotiate a medical bill, and it's really important to do so, especially if you're low income or underinsured, to say, hey, I've given you everything I can give you. I have a family, I live on disability, or I have no income and I live on the kindness of my family members or friends, whatever it is that you're struggling with and going through. Talk to them, be upfront, communicate, and be open about it. And then same thing with those medical bills. And I know this sounds like a full-time job, and it can be a full-time job, especially when you first start doing it. Now I can pick up a medical bill and scan it and know right away, if there's a mistake and what to do to correct it. If there is a medical record error, say you broke your left foot, but they have that your right shoulder's broken, which happens weirdly. In medical records, they put the wrong extremity. And that you hear about people getting their hand cut off or their foot, or they took out the wrong foot, So make sure that your medical records are correct. And if they are not correct, submit a letter of correction to be put into your file, because those medical records follow you. My medical records printed out are 5 feet high. That's how tall I am. So they're as tall as I am. And I've had to correct those records almost every single time. Even when you think like, I have the best doctor, or that emergency room nurse was really nice, they still put the wrong things in sometimes. And if you have wrong information, it can affect your future care, as well as what insurance covers, as well as if you are in a situation where you are unconscious, or you can't speak for yourself, or you have a mental health crisis. What is in your medical records is what they're going to pull up. And if it's incorrect in that record and you can't correct them, or they don't believe you, depending on the situation, then you can get the wrong care, which could make you even worse than what you had going into the situation. So it's very important to keep your medical records up to date and order those. And now with the patient portals that we have, with the laws that went into effect the last few years, there's really no reason for you not to just, hey, I went to the doctor. I used to have to fill out a medical request form every single time. Now I can just go into my patient portal and print it off and have that information, check it. If there's something that needs corrected, I can put it right there in the portal, and it's all online. So it definitely has gotten easier for people. It just has to be followed up on, so that in the future, your care is not impacted by not fixing a mistake that somebody else made today.
You mentioned the network portals and all that, but another big thing right now is seeing a doctor through Zoom or through camera and all that.
Telehealth.
Yes, telehealth.
Yes.
What are the pros and cons of that? What I know some of the things is, at least you get, with the way the pandemic was, it was really hard to see a doctor.
It was. And it was scary to go see a doctor, because you're like, why do I want to go see a doctor to get stitches out or whatever it is? Why do I want to go see a doctor when there's all these sick people in there with COVID, which I'm trying to avoid, So the government, when the pandemic started, they put some laws into place, and they started telehealth, which actually it started before that, but they said all insurance companies now have to pay for telehealth. And you were able to start seeing doctors, and you could do it through exactly, how we're doing this interview right now.
Yeah.
You can do it through a phone call, through video, text. My primary care doctor gave me his cell phone number so that I didn't have to go into his office. We could just do it through a text, or if we needed to do a phone call or video, we could do that. So it made getting access to a doctor quicker, because a lot of times when you have to go see a doctor, they also have to schedule you out a little ways. Sometimes you wait 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks to get in to see that provider. With telehealth and telemedicine, they can see you pretty quick. And the pandemic made it so that you could get it very quick and cheap. It would be a similar setup to going to the doctor's office, but they would have a telehealth price. So it really was beneficial. But there's also drawbacks. I had a tumor grow in my throat and during the pandemic, and I also had another one in my abdomen, and found that through some imaging that they had ordered. But I was able to use my video and show the doctor the tumor in my throat by opening my mouth on camera. And he was like, yeah, this is something that needs to escalate and you have to go into the doctor's office. So if it was something that was easier for them to look at, then it would be easy just to jump on telehealth. So there's a lot of pros. However, when our current president, President Biden, said the pandemic's over, some of the laws that were in place that were protecting us were taken away from us. So a lot of insurance companies went back and said, we're not going to pay for telehealth anymore. And a lot of the companies that were doing telehealth stopped doing it. So we are trying to, through International Pain Foundation, which I do a lot of my volunteer work through, we are trying to get that telehealth protection back so that we can have that ease of access without exposing patients to further germs. It also saves you time, gas, money, energy to be able to just pop on a video and get seen quicker. And then if they need to escalate you, they know, okay, this was something serious. We need to get this patient in right away. And it's easier to give those in-office appointments to you because they're not totally backed up, because they can see more patients through telehealth than they can at doctor appointments in a physical office.
Okay, this is true. Yeah. All right. So with everything that you've been hit with and everything you've gone through, what keeps you going?
Hope. Hope. Yes. I don't know. When I wake up each morning, I first am just like, thank you, God, for giving me another day. And whether I have a migraine and I have to keep the curtains drawn and stay in bed, or if I'm like ready to take on the world and it's a great pain, it's a great day, the pain is low and my other symptoms aren't acting up. No matter what I'm facing, I know I'm going to do the best I can do today. And that just comes from the hope that resides inside of me. You know, when they say like your cup is half full or half empty?
Yeah.
Optimist, pessimist. I say my cup is always full. The part that you can't see is my hope. And so sometimes I have a lot of hope and sometimes I have a little bit of hope, but as long as there's some hope in my cup, I'm going to be okay. And so I just try to live by that mantra. And, you know, one of the tools that I was taught, I went to counseling when I first got sick because my whole world crumbled. And who would not be depressed and anxious with their world crumbling around them physically?
I know. I went through some tragedies in my life, and it was hard. It was when you lose faith and you lose hope and everything, you just want to give up, and it can be difficult. It can definitely be difficult. And thank God I was able to seek the help that I needed and was able to turn my life around. And
Absolutely.
I'm in a much better place now.
Absolutely. I did learn some tools, and my favorite tool that I learned is called I Am. And the counselor said, go home. Your homework this week before your next session is to write down all the things you are. And I said, okay. And I went home and I tried to do my homework. And halfway through the week, the counselor called and said, how's homework coming? And I was like, well, I suck. I'm nothing. And I have nothing good to write down. And he said, well, let's help you get started. And you can do this. And he said, you're spiritual, you go to church, you have faith, you believe, you're a believer. Write down, I am Christian. And so or actually I wrote down, I am spiritual. And that is the first thing I wrote down. And by the time I got to his office, I had about 50 things on my list of I ams. I am creative, and I am easygoing, and I am emotional, and I am organized, and all the things that I am. And even if I'm not that particular thing in that moment, it's a part of me.
Yeah.
And because I would say, well, that I'm useful, and sometimes I'm useless, but that could be a good thing or a bad thing. And he taught me that you could be both things at the same time, and it's okay. But knowing your I ams is really important. And anytime you're struggling, put your I ams on paper and go back and read all the wonderful things about yourself. And by the time I left his office, I had about 75, and now I have over 150 I ams that I keep on a piece of paper next to my desk that I can look at and refer back to and remind myself of all the things that make up who I am, not what I do, but who I am.
Yeah.
I am
But
cheerful.
some people confuse what they do with who they are.
And I did that for sure. Yeah.
But one of the things that I was talking about recently was self-talk, and the way you talk to yourself and the things you say to yourself.
Yes.
And some of us are really, really mean to ourselves. We say some horrible things to ourselves, and it's shocking. To me, it's like you wonder why everything is going bad for you. First of all, you're starting off bad by talking very, like, some of the things, like when people talk to me like, oh, I'm an idiot, I can't do nothing, they're not realizing that they're really hurting themselves by saying these things about themselves.
Absolutely. And they get stuck in your head and play stuck in your mind. They play on a loop, right? And so it's when I hear somebody put themselves down, I say stop, and then I will like physically grab it, not touching them, but grab like right in front of their chest and pull it away and say, I'm going to throw that guilt away. I'm going to throw that insecurity away. You do not need that. That is not you. And I try to do that for myself as well. And I have positive talking and okay, maybe I'm having a challenge, but instead of having an issue or a problem, I try to face things as a challenge. And just changing that word is easier to deal with. Just changing your mindset. You're not stupid. You might have something you need to learn, but you can be educated.
Yeah.
And so taking those as life lessons and challenges versus problems and issues and negative words, negative connotations. I have a friend, she's like, I'm fat. I'm ugly. I'm like, nope, stop. We're not going there. Take that out of your vocabulary. You're beautiful. You are worthy. You have all these good things going for you. So let's start naming some so you can remember. Yeah. And it's really important to do that, not just for yourself when you start your negative talk, but if you hear somebody else negative talking themselves,
correct them.
Yeah.
Give them, listen, like, no, you're not that. Come on, stop saying that. You're not that kind. No. And it is true. It's the way people, it's mind shift. It's definitely change. It's the change in your mind. Right. And for me, it was like, I have a coworker, and we had issues and stuff like that. And I finally decided, you know what? Maybe it's not him. Maybe it's the way I'm approaching the situation, the way I'm dealing with the situation. Yes. And since then, things have smoothed out. We're not friends, but it's to the point where work isn't annoying now that I have to work with him. It's to the point where, all right, okay, like I said, maybe I need to change something in myself to make this relationship smooth out better than what it was. And it's once I did that, it's like the relationship improved.
Yep. And that's what you'll see happen. And when they see you take that action, or shift in how you respond to what's happening, then they can start reflecting and become more of a mirror of, okay, we might not like each other, but we're here, we're going to work together. So let's make it as great as it can be.
Yeah.
And, or pleasant as it can be. And it's like, you know, when you get on the plane, they tell you, put your own oxygen on first. Well, same thing, put your own mindset in the right place and approach things of, okay, maybe we don't know what that person's going through. Maybe they're having a really tough, challenging time, or maybe their parents are on them for not feeling like they're proud of them, or whatever it is that they're bringing to the table. They might not even recognize or realize. But if we, sorry.
It happens.
I thought I had it turned off. It's a special friend that I have it. If she calls, that the phone automatically rings, even if all the other calls are turned off. So yes. But it legit, you just have to change your mindset and how you're approaching your challenges. If it's too big of a challenge, break it down into smaller pieces. If you're having a challenge with another person, I had someone say, well, I wish I was closer to my siblings. And I was like, are they still alive? You can change that. It's changeable. And, or like if for instance, you know, my husband says something in front of his mom, and I'm like, wait, remember, how you talk to me is how other people are going to talk to me that are in your sphere. So make sure that you're always saying positive, good things, even if you're annoyed with me in the moment, so that, you know, we can go back and talk about it later in private, but you don't want other people treating me bad. But if they see you put me down or say something negative, or me say something negative about you, it really can put you in a bad situation when you're trying to work with other people, especially family members and friends. But it's really how you treat each other in front of other people, is that same energy is going to come back on you, and being mindful of that. It's really important.
No, it is. It definitely is. It's like, I love my wife, but she can be on hard ass, but that's who she is, and I love that fact about her, because yes, there's things that we both work on that we both know we need to change, but we realize these things. So these are things, like we had a conversation and she blew up on me, and I usually react in a negative way, and this time I didn't react in a negative way because I knew I was wrong. Even I knew I had messed up, and I knew. So I was like, because usually when she blows up and she curses at me, I'm like, you need to watch it.
Yeah.
But this time I didn't, because I realized I had screwed up, and she had reason to be upset with me. And I told her, I said, listen, usually I blow up when you curse at me, but I was like, I can't say nothing. There's nothing. I have to accept the fact that I brought this upon myself, because I did whatever I did was my fault. It just pissed her off, and she just got tired of talking to me about it. So I realized it was me. It wasn't. It was. I didn't get upset. I said, babe, you're absolutely right. I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna work on it. I'm not upset. Usually I would have probably gotten upset over it, but I was like, no, I'm gonna eat this because I knew I was wrong, and I accepted it. And I told her, I said, listen, I understand why you're upset. I'm not even upset you cursed at me. We're good. I was like, I deserved it. I actually deserved it. So there's no reason for me to. She was like, thank you, I appreciate that, and
it just brings the whole
situation down. Yeah, it calms the whole situation down. Yes. I could have easily been like, oh, don't do it, but me realizing that, no, I was wrong. What she's saying is absolutely right. The way she's saying it isn't right, but I accept it because I know she's upset and angry.
Right. Yeah. I hear your frustration. I am sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you approach situations like that, like, hey, yeah, I my bad, I messed up. It puts everybody, if you messed up, if the other person messed up and if they're never going to admit it, sometimes you have to say, okay, how do I want to approach this situation? Maybe do what you need to do to finish that situation, and then don't have that person in your life anymore. But if it's your spouse, hopefully you can work through it and say, okay, yep, here's where I need to change. Even if if there's something you needed to change and your partner needs to change, they have something else to work on. You don't even have to point out what they need to work on. Just by you saying, I'm going to work on this, can help them work on whatever challenges and things they're facing, even if they don't verbalize it.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah, it makes it makes a lot of sense when you do stuff like that. So you mentioned you was a head coach at Washington State. You taught cheerleading
and dance. Yep, cheerleading and dance, and I also ran the mascot program and the pep team. So I was quite busy, but I miss doing it.
There's things now. You're it's a different now. You're in different path for you. So, but it was a great experience to be able to do that, to help to teach cheer and coach cheer and all this stuff at a Division I school. Not a lot of people can say that.
I know, and I got to coach at 2 Rose Bowls and a Sun Bowl. So I can say I coached at 2 Rose Bowl games, and there's less than 100 coaches on earth that have done that. And I did that. And people go, you coached at the Rose Bowl? Yeah, I did. Cheer and dance, not football, but I still coach.
Hey, I was there. You was there though. You was there coaching.
I was there on the field.
Yes. So no, you can say you did. Yeah.
Yes. And I feel like, so many things got taken away from me. It took me a while to mourn all the things I would never be able to do. But then I realized I got to do incredible things that most other humans on earth won't ever have the chance to do. And I got to have those experiences, and other people have other experiences that they get to do that I don't. And it helped me process that and get through the grief of it. But it was a challenge to say, I'm never going to do a backflip again. Like when I did my last backflip, had I known it was my last one, I would have been like, can somebody please videotape this and take a picture or so? Like I would have had it documented. But I thought I was going to do that.
Yeah. You never know. You never know when things happen.
Yep.
So you said you're really a reality I can't even speak right now. Reality TV. Yes, I finally said it.
Yep.
So what show was that?
I did multiple shows, but probably the most known was on TLC, called Extreme Time Cheaters. And before everybody jumps off this interview and goes and looks it up, it was about how to live more life so that you can get more out of life. And they changed the name of the show from Extreme Time Savers to Extreme Time Cheaters because it was sexier. There's also, it's reality television, so there's a seed of truth in each scene, but it's reality, not real. So keep that in mind. But I use it as a platform to talk about health and getting through the minefield of the health system, especially here in the United States. And
which is horrible, yes.
Yeah, it's working as designed. Very bad.
Yes, absolutely.
If you just keep talking to the same silo of people in your life, nothing changes, nothing happens. And you're just talking to the same people over and over. So, having a podcast is really awesome because you get to have all these new listeners come in and listen and take tidbits away. That's the same thing with the reality shows. We're reaching thousands of people. We did my husband and I were Ken and Barbie, so that helps. We did a segment on Steve Harvey's show called Hey Steve, and that has over 4 million views. But so many of those people got to hear that I have health challenges and that, we had this problem with our pool and my husband wanted to try to fix it on his own. We should have just hired somebody because it would have saved us time and money. But we got 4 million views, but a lot of those people go and research our names and find more information about us and find out about the charity work we do. And they find out about the health challenges and rare diseases and the other things in our life that we really care about. So we use it as an outreach. But I've been on shows on the CBS and the Weather Channel, the Game Show Network, TLC, and hopefully I'll get the opportunity to do even more.
Oh, you will. You definitely will, because you have a message that needs to be shared. People need to see that, hey, regardless of what you're going through in your life, there's a light at the end of that tunnel. There's something that you
There's a
can.
purpose.
Yeah, there is, and like with me, I went through, I suffered one tragedy after another. Like I was widowed at 31.
Tough.
The following year, I reunited with my dad after 25 years of not
Talking.
not seeing him or whatever.
Yeah.
Only to go see him and lose him Father's Day weekend. I've lost two brothers, one to sickness, one to a drug overdose. I lost an aunt and uncle that were instrumental in helping raising me, and this happened all within 6-7 years, like one after another.
Yeah.
And I was angry. I was
course.
self-destructive. I was self-medicating. I didn't care about life. I didn't care about anyone. Basically, I didn't really care about myself. I just did whatever I wanted to do. Didn't think about the consequences of any of my actions. And finally, one day I woke up and it was like, no, I have to change. This has to change. There's something has to give. And I'm like, I'm so angry over things I had no control over. These are things that happen. This life happens, things happen. And I was just so angry and upset that when that voice in my head said, listen, you need to change your life around or you won't be here much longer. You need to change it. I understand you're going through what you're going through, but you're angry at something you had no control over. And I'm like, oh man. And so I started seeking the help that I needed, started changing my life around, fell in love again, married an amazing woman, and things just started changing. I've been at my job that I've had now for the past 8 years and started my podcast 2 years ago. And when I started that's where I found my purpose. I found my voice. I found what I'm here to do, because the people that I talk to, they have some amazing stories. And I've had guests reach out like, I needed that episode, or I needed to hear this person speak. Thank you so much. And that to me is success.
Yes.
If it's one person or 10,000, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do because I'm touching someone's life. I'm making an impact.
Yeah.
And that to me is much more important than making millions of dollars, because sometimes money doesn't buy you happiness.
Right.
And so to be able to come on and impact people's lives, touch people's lives, that to me is enriching. That to me is being rich. That to me is being able to like transform someone and you not even know it.
It doesn't even matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you know.
Yeah.
It matters if it happened. And you're not even going to know. There's a ripple effect. You helped someone and then they pay that forward and they can go on and help someone. And it just ripples and ripples and grows and builds. And that's amazing. Yeah. We each have a purpose. And once you find your purpose and your calling, that's what you're here on earth to do. Fulfill it. Congratulations for everything that you're doing.
And I found that. I know that podcasting gives me the opportunity to reach thousands and thousands of people, and I have a great fan base that support me, and yes, I don't have the thousands of listen, but I love my audience. I love the fact, and now that I go live, they sometimes they get to interact, sometimes they'll chat, they'll leave messages, and that to me is like it was just an evolution, because I started strictly audio, then I went to pre-recorded video, to now doing lives, because of just me wanting to interact with my audience more, make them feel a part of the show, where they can actually ask a question of the guest, or if they want to just say something, or like if they're going through something, that's why I do it now, is to go live. And it's just a great feeling to be able to just let people feel a part of the show.
Absolutely. And it's creating ripples and helping other people find their purpose. The listeners right now might go, well, hosting a podcast isn't my purpose. No, but you have a unique purpose to you, what you are here on earth to fulfill and do. And that's what you should be working towards, finding, fulfilling, and accomplishing your purpose so that it can ripple and help humanity, which is what we're all here to do.
Yeah. Yes.
And I know you suffered a lot of loss and tragedy, and I feel for you on that. And I also know you got to have time, like going back and having that extra time with your dad. That's one of, like, I have a regret. My siblings told me Dad's doing better than he has in a long time. There's no need for you to come visit. And my heart was telling me, go visit. And I didn't go. And he passed away just like a week later. And I wish I had gone, because they thought he's doing the best he's ever done in years. And you never know. But at least I had all the years that I did with him and all the time I had, and the fact that you got to reconnect with him and have the, that it seemed like probably a short time, but it was quality time with him. Other people miss out on that, and they wish that they had one more day.
Oh, it's just crazy. It's me because my sister found me on Facebook. She sent me a message and she was like, "This was
so cool."
I had just came back from Puerto Rico for my mom's 70th birthday.
Yeah.
And I get a message on Facebook, and it's my sister. I remember, I knew her name and everything. And she's like, "I'm looking for my brother. He has the same name as you. And I was wondering if it's you." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's me." I replied to the message, sent her my phone number, and she called me the next morning. And we spoke, and we had a great conversation. And I have a younger brother that I hadn't met at that time. I knew my two other siblings from my dad's side, because prior to that, when I was young, he actually came and picked me up and took me for a weekend, and I got to meet them and all that. And so after that, I didn't see them for 25 years.
Wow.
And so she finds me, we start communicating. I actually call my father's house, and my younger brother picks up the phone, and we've never had a conversation, but he knows all about me, because of course my dad is like, "Oh, I'm never going to see my son ever again. I can't believe it." And so I call him, and he picks up the phone, and I go, "You know who this is?" And he says, "Yes," because my sister had already told him that I was going to call. He was so excited and all that.
That's so awesome.
And so we reconnected, and I got to see my dad through the laptop and all that. And so my sister was like, "You know what? I want to send you a plane ticket, because you're going to be the Father's Day present. You're going to be dad and my two brothers, who are fathers at that time as well." She was like, "You're going to be their Father's Day present." And I'm like, "Cool, that's fine. I'll come down and we'll spend some time and all that."
Yeah.
And I get there Friday night for a Father's Day weekend, and she keeps me in the living room, and she goes in and she goes, "Dad, you want your Father's Day present?" Because she always gives it to him early, and then he's like, "Yeah, sure, take it." And she comes down and she goes, and I go in, and his eyes just open up. And so we embrace and we talk, and I tell him, and I had already forgiven him.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I had already gotten over the fact that he hadn't been in my life.
Yeah.
Because again, I was
It's
angry.
hard.
I was like, why doesn't he want to be in my life? Why doesn't he want to do with me? And so I forgave him. We spoke, and we had a great time. And that same night, me and my little brother go out, spend some time, and me, him, and his wife go do some pool, have some drinks, have a good time. So we go back to my sister's house that later on, and we fall asleep. And my sister starts calling us like, "Yo, y'all need to get over here quickly. There's something wrong." And he had gotten up early, had a great breakfast, and he was so excited. He's like, "Oh, take the card, go buy some groceries. You're gonna have a big dinner and all this." And he lays down for a nap, and he didn't wake up after that. And so the fact that I actually got to reconnect with him and really be like, "I forgive you," and have that little bit of time, but again, I was after that happened, like, oh my God, am I such a bad person that all these things are happening to me? Especially after losing my wife, and now I'm losing my dad.
Mhm.
And so then again, it was a tragedy after another. One of my brother that I reconnected with, also from my dad's side, he passed away from a drug overdose. And so it was just all these things. And I wouldn't like people wouldn't blame me if I gave up, because they're like, oh, you
No,
went through so much. So,
and many
but that
people choose to give up.
yes, but
Yeah.
I was like, no, because then I'm not I'm not honoring my wife, first of all, because she actually had introduced me into into self-development, into Louise Hayes, Abraham Hicks, all these self-development books. And I think that she was preparing me for what was to come. And even though I had lost my way
Yeah.
for a while, after everything I was going through,
Right.
it kind of, when I snapped out of, finally, when it hit me, and that voice hit me and said, listen, things have to change, I
You had
snapped
the
back into, I went back into what the teachings that I had already learned.
Yeah. You had the
And
tools all along. You had it
yes,
in you all along. Yeah.
but I wasn't using them. I was
Right.
not using them. And so when I did that, and got back to the teachings and everything that I had learned, and got back into reading books, and got back into taking courses, and listening to speakers and all that, things started shifting. Like, things started changing. I got a career as a security guard in New York City. Started doing that for a while, and then my wife that I'm with now comes
Mhm.
into my life, and she got me right back. She started getting me back into self development again, and from there it's just been. I moved to Pennsylvania because of her, because she was commuting, working in New York but living in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So we started dating and all that. And after a year, she's like, I want you to come live in PA. I want to be with you all the time. And I was like, cool. I was, at the time, New York City was getting crazy. And I told my family, like, listen, I'm moving to PA. And they're like, okay, so we're leaving with you. So
Right.
we moved them all up here. And it's been the best move.
Ever.
Imagine, it's been the best move for everyone that's been
Yeah.
involved and all that.
Oh my
And
gosh,
so,
that's great.
yeah, so from there, it's just being able to start doing this now, and being able to share my, because at first I didn't share my story. It was silly of me, but someone made me realize, like, no, you have a story you need to share.
Yeah.
People need to hear your struggles. People need to realize that, yes, you have a story as well. You have
Absolutely.
something that people suffer loss, and they don't know how to deal with it. Maybe if they hear your story, it can inspire them to, like, you know what, I could change my life. Why is it? Let me do it.
Yep.
And so I started sharing my story more often now.
Good. I'm glad you're sharing your story, and it makes a difference when we can hear that, hey, I'm not the only one going through this, or I resonate with this, and maybe it didn't happen to somebody exactly how it happened to you. That's okay. Know that you can get through it, and that you can, take the steps that you need to get past the anger and the fear and the anxiety and depression and anything negative or upsetting in your life. Not that those types of things won't happen, but how you deal with them changes, which changes you, which brings more positivity into your life in the other moments. And those moments fill in positivity. So when you do have a challenging moment, it's not so hard or challenging or depressive, and it helps you get through. And hearing other people's stories is one of those tools we can use to get through. So thank you for sharing with me.
Oh no, thank
And
you
all
for
your
being on
listeners.
the show. No, thank you for coming through. And once again, I'm all right. So I got to tell the story to everybody.
Okay.
So, all right, everybody. She was supposed to be on the show Monday, and I was not feeling well on Monday, but I didn't schedule I didn't reschedule the show. So I sat here in the studio, And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just close my eyes. And I suffer from sleep apnea. So for those who don't know what that is, I stop breathing in my sleep.
Yeah.
And so I'm here and I fall asleep and I didn't mute myself. Barbie comes into the studio and she hears me snore.
Yeah. I
And
could
she
hear
sends me a
that.
message. She's like, I don't know who's snoring, but they're suffering from some sleep apnea.
Yes, podcast guest saves host life. Oh my goodness.
Oh man, so
I
yeah,
will remember. I will remember you forever because of this, and I also suffer with migraines, so I totally get it and understand. I just had a little bit of like, okay, this person that's snoring, I didn't know if it was you in real life or if it was a
recording.
a recording, like just to keep me busy while you're interviewing a different guest or something. So I'm thinking like this person has sleep apnea. They're breathing. My dad would breathe like that, and I would be like, "Dad, breathe, breathe, Dad." And I just want, I just wanted him to like breathe and keep breathing and keep living. And I'm
Yes.
like, okay,
No, I sleep with a CPAP machine. Yes, I know.
yeah,
I believe me, and so I just had to share that story because I thought it was funny and,
it
and
is.
things that life happens, but I thank you for being so understanding and
Yeah.
rescheduling. Thank you.
No problem. And I don't hold it against you. I know when I get migraines, I've never fallen asleep on a podcast, but I have had days where I'm like, I am out. Like I can't even function mentally. I have to not do this.
No, I couldn't take it. I was like, oh, I'm like, I have to close my eyes. I have to close my eyes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
and
that closing my eyes just baby's passed out here in the studio.
sound hurts, light hurts,
Yeah,
like
everything
everything
hurt.
hurts when you got a migraine.
Everything was hurting.
Yeah.
But see, this is why I do it, because I have amazing guests. I have amazing listeners like Obaimi. He's a good friend of mine. He's been a day one listener. He's been a supporter since day one. He actually did a couple of pieces of merch for me because
Cool.
he does merchandise. He does T-shirts and all that stuff. And so he did the design. He did some shirts for me and all that. And the reason I had him do it is because I wanted to support a local businessman. And so I was like, yo, I need you to do some merch for me. Here, tell me your price, whatever it is. Here you go. And the reason I did that, like I said, is because I knew he's an entrepreneur. He has a business, and I wanted to support him. And he's been supporting me since day one. Like since I started releasing episodes, audio episodes, he's been supporting me, sharing my stuff. And I appreciate him so much. He's a great guy. And anytime I can drum up some business for him, I'll definitely do it. Like if somebody says, hey, you know anybody that does T-shirts? And yeah, I got the right guy for you.
Yep. Amazing.
But yeah, it's great to have people like that support you and have your back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you can interconnect your networks and help everybody grow, like they say, the tide rises all ships.
Yes.
When you can help be that tide and help lift up other people, that's what we're here on earth for. That's fulfilling our life purpose. And we do it in many different ways. And I really love that you do that with your listeners and you're able to connect people and do those types of things. So keep going.
Thank you. All right. So now is the time where you get to plug away. You let everybody know where they find you, everything. So sure. I'm gonna give you the solo layout, and here you go.
Okay, thank you so much. I am available at barbyingle.com, BARBYINGLE.com. That is my name. It's not Barbara. And on that website, you can find out all about me. You can get access to purchase all of my books. I have 9 books, and I'm working on my 10th book now, and hopefully it'll be out next year. And if you are interested in learning anything about rare diseases or chronic pain, you can go to internationalpain.org and get information about over 150 different conditions that involve chronic pain, tips, tools, resources, and projects that are helpful to the chronic pain community. And I hope you reach out if you need help. Always know there's great reason for hope, because there is help. You just have to reach out and seek it.
All right. That's awesome. Don't leave just yet. Don't leave
Okay.
just yet. I'm going to give my shout outs and then
Awesome.
we'll chat a little bit off the air.
Okay.
All right. So now it is time for shout outs. Big shout out to my man Obaimi for always coming through and sharing some love, man. Peace be with you, brother. Big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to our guest, Barbie Engel, for coming through and sharing her story. Big shout out to the boss lady, Fina. I love you, baby, and appreciate you. And as always, a big, big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know your boy Wise does it. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Listen on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and TuneIn. Find us on social media on Twitter at @wise_b_blunt, Instagram at @wise_b_blunt, and a Facebook fan page, www.facebook.com/wise76. Check back soon for new episodes. Until next time, peace out.